No.
I'm sorry if y'all hear that loud noise because that's the AC that's messing with me right now, and I have to put it on because it gets very, very warm in this room. Oh my God. Ooh. In the silence of this moment, I can feel your presence near, holding every broken piece, wiping every hidden tear. When the night was cold and lonely, I wanted to talk about this interesting president, President Ulysses Grant. I believe he's on our, what dollar bill is he on? What bill is he on? Every fear I couldn't face, you kept calling me so gently. Now I'm wrapped in your grace. You never left me, you never changed. Your love kept reaching through all my pain. Hi, Kifon. Hue from a different cloth. How are you? Cut from a different cloth. Okay, I get it. How you doing? Good afternoon, good evening. No matter how far, I want to just since we in this kind of right now, history, what's taking place in the United States of America today. Okay, since I see a few of you in here, I'm gonna get it started. I'm wrapped in your grace. Now, I wanted to do this because we are still in celebrating 250 years of history in America, right? And the thing is that a lot of people don't really understand the history of this country. They just been born here, but nobody really poured into them their life here as an American and why they're here, who they are, whatever. And so they running around here like a whole bunch of, people like a chicken with their head cut off. You know what I'm saying? They don't know where they going. They don't. The future is like, oh, the hell with America. You live in a country, but you damning it to hell is so weird to me. You know what I'm saying? It is really weird when you actually lived all your life someplace, whether you loved it for better or for worse, whatever, you was born here, but you wouldn't have those feelings if, I believe, wow, one of your BFF, Ulysses Grant, he's an interesting person, right? I wish they could come out and talk about him because he's an interesting president. Ulysses Grant doesn't get as much recognition as George Washington gets, and the same goes for our president Abraham, because he fought in the Civil War as the general in the Civil War, fought during the time Abraham was serving. Yes, he was. And he was a very honored man. Ulysses Grant, I think Grant is on the $100 bill. Is that Grant on the $100 bill? Or the $50 bill? It's one of the bills. I know he's on one of the notes. I should know that. But I'm not sure. I think it's the 100. It's the $100 bill or the $50 bill. I'm trying to find out who's the president on those bills, on those dead presidents. Wait, it says every good boy, every good boy deserves. Because, it was a certain way we had to say it in line to remember what president was what bill. And that's how we were able to know the denominations of the notes of their faces. Oh, he's on the 50. Yup. Does every good boy does fine. Yep. Wait, because the $1 bill, I believe, is Washington. The $5 bill, I believe, is it Lincoln? Lincoln is on the $5 bill, I believe. He's on, I think, either the, yeah, he is on the $5 bill, and he's on the penny. Is he on the five? Oh no, is it Grant? It's somebody on the $5 bill. I keep forgetting. But anyway, like I said, he was one of the ones on the coinage. Lincoln was. Grant is the $50 bill, right? And let me tell you about President Grant. All along, he's been around sort of my life because I never paid any attention to it until I got older. That Grant's tomb that you see right here behind on this photo, that's in Harlem, USA. And every year in Harlem, around Harlem Week, when they celebrate Harlem Week, that's when they celebrate over there by Grant's tomb. And they always have a jazz festival, and it's free to the public. And it's funny that I never paid that any attention until now. And I said, wow, this is interesting that Grant was one of the generals and the fighters who fought against Ku Klux Klans. You know what I'm saying? He, I wouldn't say hated them, but they were considered the terrorists in America. President Grant was the one who put that in for him to protect the lives of to protect our lives, black people lives, and also to protect us from the KKK. And he served 2 terms, but he didn't finish the second term because he caught throat cancer. He had caught throat cancer, so he struggled with that cancer, and he also grew up on a farm himself, in a cottage, you would say, more like a cottage, and his father was a tanner. Okay, they was into the tanning business or whatever. And in that tanning business, his father owned the tanning business and stuff like that. And Grant was a horse whisperer. He had a love for horses. That's why he was so bad as a general on that horse when he was out there in that battlefield for the time he served. And he served a lot of time in the military. When you learn about President Grant, it's going to really, really be interesting. That's why I say you got to visit old history. You got to know the old to get to the new. And a lot of times we voting for people that have no kind of connection to American history whatsoever. We only voting them in because they sound good or whatever. But one thing you got to listen to, the American patriotic spirit. If they don't have that American patriotic spirit about them and you looking for a president over your nation, and that's some of the things we missed. And that we didn't realize what we were doing when we were voting in our elections for our presidents. Not just to say I'm gonna do all of this great stuff for you and I'm gonna do all of this for you as an American people and the American people this and the American people that. That is only just lip service, and that is not always honestly coming from the heart. They not truly looking. They telling you what you want to hear so you can vote for them, and then when they get in that seat, No, we don't need Obama back. That's what got us all messed up. Don't come here with no Obama. I voted for Obama twice. No, we don't need that. That's why Trump dealing with the problem he got now with immigrations and all these people now feel entitled. Like they really got rights over here in America when they ain't even got no grassroots here. And they were here on TPS status and he gave them amnesty and he just messed up America, period. Because he didn't have the American spirit. Okay. Now don't get me wrong. I don't hate Obama, but I don't think that was the right choice for us to make in America when we elected him in office for presidency. Because he didn't come to do any, you know what I'm saying? Thank you, cut from a different cloth. Exactly. No Obama. Obama got black people messed up in this country. Do your American history, black folks. He didn't put out nothing to do any memorial or anything from for Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, for Malcolm X. That speaks volumes to me because I looked at Malcolm X's grave and it's been 60 something years since he's been in that grave. And not one person who is in politician that call themselves fighting for civil rights for black people and to for the advancement of black people and all these other great things about black people history in America and all the great things we have done in America and how we have built the foundation of this country, which was the slave and his master. To be honest with you, they both built it together. I guess the slave and everything was the master builder. Thank you, cut from a different cloth, and you are FBA. That's right, and I'm a foundation of black. One, two. I'm just gonna celebrate my father's birthday tomorrow. I'm gonna just put his flag outside the house, and do a little, something for him. I brought a flag to put on my father's, just outside in front of my house and everything, because he was a veteran, and he made his place here in the United States of America for his children, and I'm grateful for what he's done for me and for this country, as my father was a veteran. He's fought in Korea. Well, my civil rights are still here. Only civil rights is going for those who don't never appreciated it anyway. Those are the ones who civil rights are going, not mine. Not mine. My father's name is right there in the United States of America Army. He served in the military. He's in the grave right there in the National Cemetery in New York and Long Island. Okay, sitting in a beautiful resting spot. Him and my mother together. That's right. My uncles, my family members, I know my history. My family history. I know my family. Let me show you my shirt, y'all. I'm wearing my shirt today. you know, back in the family. I'm with my family. We haven't had a family reunion on my father's side since 2023. This is his family. But I wore it today in honor, for his birthday, which is going to be celebrated on July tomorrow, the 11th. So I am a child of American history. I was in the making when my parents brought me here. Okay, history was in the making. Black history. Okay, when I got here, because I got here after the death of Malcolm X, and I was here. Oh, he died in '65, and I was here when Martin was here, because Martin didn't die until '68. So Malcolm died before Martin. And the thing is that I don't understand how they built Obama a library in Chicago when a library should have been built for Malcolm. Hello. They built a monument. They built something there as a library. And I never know a president was to build his library before he died. I don't know. I got to go back and do my history on that, because when I look at these presidents that are dead, the dead presidents, they didn't build the library. Okay? What they did is they left a memoir of their life, but they never built a library that I know. I got to go back and do my research on my presidents. But for one thing I know is that when Lincoln died, I know that there was the community that built, made sure they raised enough money to put up a tomb for him and do all this other stuff for him. And they did, and it took years, and people were donating for years of money to build that Lincoln Memorial and to build that Lincoln, like those statues and stuff, all those places. And Lincoln, they actually took his train ride. Well, at that time they ain't do planes and stuff they do together. They either was riding those horses on that buggy or whatever like that, or they did water. You know, they traveled by water, buggies, and trains, and they built the railroad. So Lincoln was able to take the railroad. They took his body from for 2 weeks around to different places for his, you know, viewing, and everybody could get to see the president of the United States of America that was assassinated. So Lincoln, they took 2 weeks before they put that man in the grave. And then when they put him in the tomb, people were trying to steal from him because, you know, they buried him with certain treasures, and people were trying to rob his, go in and steal out of his. Hello, how are you? Cheer beer, how are you? Yeah, so people would try to go and steal his they were trying to steal a goddamn body. I was like, what is wrong with people? So they had to send guards out there to guard it. And they probably still got guards around these bodies. I don't know about Grant's tomb having any guards or anything, because look, it's in Harlem. But I'm sure, because see, these lamps are here, and they probably do got some kind of special cameras and stuff like that out there to make sure nobody don't mark it up and put graffiti on it and all that other stuff. Because it's in Harlem now. It's on Riverside on 120. I think it's on 120 something, 22nd Street in Harlem, in Riverside. Because I know they have every summer around August, they give a jazz fest at Grant's tomb. Okay, Harlem used to be lit for Harlem Week. I don't know what it's gonna be like now that they got that Muslim in there. You know, these people that come here, they really have no connection to this country whatsoever, and don't have the passion, really, truly, to really do what they supposed to do to help the American people. They here to destroy us from within. I'm sorry, but I would not think that these people should be sitting in government, being mayor, being anything, not even in our Congress, because these people really put the work in, the people that died to build the foundation of this country. People like Grant. Oh, he was a bad general. Okay, Grant was I think one of the best that ever lived. I think Ulysses Grant was one of the best United States general in our United States Army that ever lived. I'm not sure, but I think he was before he became president. And then you had, what's his name? Oh, he funny. Homeboy was like, look, he gonna make everything big for him. He was the chief of justice. What is this president name again? Oh my God, his name. He might be something about his character remind me of a Trump. Okay, he kind of like remind you, if you look at if you read about his story and his way they got his tomb up there. He made sure he was the chief of justice. I was like, yo, he was the way they did his. Oh boy, he was something. Yeah, we need to shut down on immigration because we don't need no more. It is no more room in the end. It is nothing more to do to build in America. All we got to do is fix our justice system. Basically, that's all America has to do. We don't need no more people coming over here talking about they need freedom. They need rescue from their country from wars, or they having starvation in their country or poverty or whatever like that. We got enough poverty in America to deal with right now. We got enough poverty in America to deal with. We have enough everything to deal with. Our housing situation. Some of these veterans are living on the street. Some of the families that fought in the wars for the families that were veterans are on the street. Come on now. Nah. We taking care of American people first. We can't keep letting everybody get in here and get ahead of Americans. These jobs supposed to be for us because this is what our forefathers and all of them laid their life down for when they built the foundation of this country. That's why I say it's important to go and visit the dead presidents and read about their story. And they had to, I'm talking about they had to deal with all kind of plagues that were hitting their life and everything, like diseases were coming, dying from all kind of malaria and being out there in them fields and in that water and all across here and there. Some of them froze to death, fighting in them wars. You'll be surprised, when you hear the story about what these soldiers went through. and what these the American men went to as far as the U.S. Army while I was building this country, our breaking away from England so we can have our own independence to our country. That's when we celebrate in the 1776 the Revolutionary War. It was a whole lot of other wars. It was the Mexican War, something like that. The French and Mexican War. It was a lot of wars going on for this territory that America was whipping ass. Okay, and they was laying down their life. And the most important thing they were fighting for was Christianity, because other nations were trying to come in with their ideology and all kind of crazy other things like the Indians. Now everybody is a very like everybody keep talking about, well, the Indians were here, but the Indians did not worship Christ. They were into all kind of other kind of gods and other voodoo stuff and rituals and things of that nature, but they didn't worship the true and living God of the Bible. They didn't want to come out of their Native American ways. They didn't want to come out of their what you would call things that were considered uncivilized. Okay, their uncivilized way. They didn't want to grow to the next. They didn't want to go to the next level, and that's why they were pushed onto the reservoirs. You see what I'm saying? It's not like nobody stole anything from them. When you go deeper and you do a deeper dive in the culture of America, in the foundation of America, you will learn about the American Indians. They were barbaric. They did not want to come out of their ignorant ways. They did not want to come out of those ways of just living in nature like that. They did not want to come into you know, a new world. They didn't want to come into a new world. They wanted to stay in their old world. They wanted to stay the way they were living in they teepees and they teepees and barefoot and walk around, their faces painted, and they wanted to look like. When you do the American history, you'll find out. Now, some of them fought against each other. Some of the Indians that wanted to become in civilization, and some didn't. It's very. It wasn't genocide. You could say whatever you want about genocide, okay? These things went on since ancient times of ancient religion times and times of it's not genocide. It's just a time of season when God will send certain things down from his spirit to remove certain things and some things to get out of the way. Okay, and you men gonna take it as genocides, but some things are just God's doing. The Indians did not want to come into the civilized world, the new world, with the the people that were coming across from all different places of the world. They were fighting among each other before the white man even got here. Okay, they were already having their battles. They had the Spanish Indians, they had the American Indians, and then they had the French. Okay, there was 3 different groups of Indians, and they were having their own wars among each other. And some took sides with the American army, and some didn't. Some of them came on the side with the civil rights. I mean, with the American, army, because they wanted to change and come out of their old. That they still kept certain things, but they wanted to become, build more civilization. That's all I'm saying. They were more. It was like trying to share the land with more civilization. Like everybody come together and share their minds together and their thoughts together. And it wasn't about genocide. They just didn't want to come to the new religion, the new world, or nothing. They wanted to stay in their world of their uncivilization. Okay, and that's the same thing in places like in third world countries with their poverty. They don't want to come out of their old ways. They want to stay in those ways while the world is moving. They still stuck in time, and they want to be in those old traditional religious ways. Even Christ talks about it himself, about coming out of your old ways and into the new transformation of your life and your mind. Indians were killing each other. They were doing the same to each other. They were killing each other in those battles. Not all Indians was on the same, on the same level. And that's why American history is so important for everybody to learn who was here and what these wars was all about. Because these wars were going with people that were here. This ain't something new. But we didn't deal with the third world. We was dealing with Western civilization here. Now the new immigrants coming in, they coming from a different place in time. The only people they consider saying that were black that were here that came from the enslaved African, those Africans were brought from somewhere else. They wasn't brought from Africa. Okay? But maybe some of their ancestry or something like that was in Western Africa. But most of the slaves that they brought over to the United States, especially like to Louisiana, places like Louisiana and down in the South Carolinas, those slaves were imported from um, the West Indies. Those slaves were chattel slaves, were imported from the West Indies. They didn't come from Africa. A lot of them didn't come from Africa. They came from the West Indies over there in those places. Especially down in South Carolina, they were like from Sierra Leone, and places of that of over there in Sierra Leone, and also down in Louisiana. And if you ever go down to Charleston, South Carolina, they still keep up some of those Western African cultures. That's where my mother's from. She's from Charleston, South Carolina. You could see it all in me. Okay? But yeah, because I look like I took all totally after that side of the family. And my mother's people and everything, they were mixed with some kind of whatever Indian, and they were black, African black with Indian something mixed in them. And I'm talking about they as dark as me, and they got real long hair. And they always wear their hair. If you notice, they would wear their hair in those like braids. I know my grandmother did. My grandmother on my father's side, she did. She used to wear her hair all the time. Either she'd have it combed back and she have a big long braid going to the back, or she had two braids in her hair like this. Yep. And some of them kept some of their African traditions too. They old African, like they'll wrap their hairs and those the band, and when they worked and everything, and sometimes they wear like a palm cap. They call it a palm cap, whatever. But and they know how to weave those baskets and stuff. But when you go down to New Orleans and when you go down to Charleston, South Carolina, you go down to Louisiana, they have that accent. They speak a gullah or patois. Yep, my lineage is South Carolina too. That's what my lineage is. Both my parents. One from Abbeville, South Carolina, and as you go towards Abbeville is closer to Spartansburg, South Carolina, and then it's also outside of Georgia. They're outside of Georgia, not too far out from Georgia, from Savannah. I think it's Savannah, Georgia. They on that coast. Yep, your people are indigenous. Yes, a lot of the indigenous was down in South Carolina. The Indians that were darker, and they can blend more in with black culture. And then you had the ones who were pale skinned and they got their face. They got all different kinds of faces, fake features when you look at them. Some of them even carry more lighter skin, and some of them were a little bit more on the, I would say, the skin tone was a little bit more reddish, and they that's how they identified themselves, and they separated their groups of Indians, like they called them Blackfoot, Seminole Indians, the Cherokee. I think the Cherokees were the ones who had more of a reddish color skin. They more Cherokee. But I also have a friend out here in Delaware. She's an American Indian, and I gotta ask her what is her clan, because they got clans, different clans. Okay, I gotta ask her what her clan is. I usually go see her powwow dances over. They come around. She come around and do her powwow. In the summertime, they do a powwow dance, and she one of the dancers. They do their little powwow dance. And I've been to one of their services at one church before, and they into Oh, Edgefield is yours. See, you know they name themselves after things like Eagle. They had names like the Eagle, and they were named after like Buffalo something, Chief Buffalo, whatever. They chief and everything. See, they had their own kind of chiefs, their own kind of government, the way they did things in those Indian cultures and stuff. That's what they did. But everybody keeps saying, oh, the Indians, y'all stole it. No, they didn't. They made a peace treaty with them. Okay? They got a peace treaty. Everybody, the French got a peace treaty. The Spanish got a peace treaty. After the wars, they did a peace treaty. And that's how they were able to purchase the land. The Louisiana purchase, all of that. They didn't just go to war with them and they didn't get paid for that property. So when they came out of the war, they had to take whatever they was able to give them, the offer. It was a peace treaty. Ain't nobody stole anything. See, we got to know the American history story. Stop listening to liberals, okay? Stop listening to people that have a hate for this country and they just throw anything in there to make people confused and make people think that way. When you do America, because I did American history when I was growing up. They don't teach American history in school no more. That's why people don't get it. They just listen to what anybody go out there and say and make up that lie about the Indians was stolen. They America even got Manhattan from the Indians because that was one of their reservoirs. That was with all the water. They needed that port. So they brought a Manhattan from the Indians. And I think they spent only it was very cheap. Because you got to understand what Indians did at that time. They didn't use money like currency, they did trade. They didn't use money. They did trade. They didn't use U.S. dollars because they lived on the reservoirs. All they did was live on the reservoirs, and they lived the way they lived with corn and things of that nature. And beads and rocks and everything was bought. Everything was bought with a price. Nobody stole anything. They had a treaty. They had a peace treaty. They did a purchase and everything else for the land. It wasn't stolen. Nothing in America was stolen. Everything in America was brought, and it was brought with a price, and people died for it. That's a lie. That's what a doggone person want to come in here and change our history want to tell us. And I feel that we could stop bringing in immigrants. Stop bringing in immigrants. We don't need no more immigrants. We got enough. It's time to close the doors. It's time to shut our borders. Yeah, Penn learned their language too. Of course, they did have to learn some of their languages so that they can understand how to communicate with each other. Of course, you had to learn some of the language. Indians did trade. They didn't do money. They didn't do U.S. currency. They did things like trades with different kind of crops. They did trade with different kind of moccasins and clothing, like they would do, like to keep you warm, like those boots and everything, the moccasins, because they knew how to work the land. And when some of these people came here, they didn't know the land, so the Indians was showed them how to use the land. And everybody needed to live next to water because water you needed to bathe, you needed to eat, you need to cook your food and everything else like that. So they needed the places like that to live. And places where they could run a stream and they could wash. It was just a whole lot of stuff people went through. The Quakers were nonviolent. They didn't believe in... No, the Quakers were very nonviolent. Very. A lot of KKK came for them too. The KKK was the doggone terrorists in America. They still are. That's why Ulysses Grant, he was one of the presidents during that time that had to take them down. He had to take them down. He had to come for them. That's why they didn't like Ulysses Grant. He was coming for the KKK members. I'm going to turn this thing off for a minute. That's what I'm saying. KKK was Ulysses Grant's enemies. Okay? Those were his enemies in America. And a lot of people don't know nothing about this president. They need to go and do some of the research. Nobody down here watching TV. They need to go and do their research. That's why I say if you don't know where you been, then you don't know where you going. Okay? That's the way I feel about these Americans running around here just because you born here. That don't make you an American. You don't got the American spirit. And when you ain't got the American spirit, America ain't gonna work for you. This ain't gonna be the place for you. And that's what people need to understand. America only works. It's like what's his name said. It's not what your country do for you. It's what you do for your country. They out here crying and complaining all the time and screaming and hollering all crazy in the street because they don't know where they at. They don't know nothing about where they came from. And they crazy. Up here fighting against the president of the United States. Are you crazy? I swear these people don't lost their mind with technology and people on the internet and telling them stuff and they going crazy out here. Oh, they're gonna take away the civil rights. Oh, they're gonna do this. They ain't taking nothing. If you know you an American citizen, you ain't got nothing to worry about. What you stressing for? What are you fighting about? Why are you out there? If fighting against the Save American Act, why would you want to not want to save the Save American Act? Why you don't want that? That says something about you. You're not American. And that's what you're afraid of because you're going to get deported. And I told them, I said, America, she going to find you. You could try to hide all you want to and try to go out there and protest and do whatever you want. But you don't know how the Spirit of God works. You can't fight up against the hands of God. If you're an American, you shouldn't have nothing to worry about. You shouldn't even have to be out there in the street screaming and hollering and crying and going crazy. If you are a citizen of this country, why would you not want to have ID? When society becomes more liberal, you know it's the end stage. History shows this. Oh, it's not the end stage. Don't feel that way, Mr. Good Citizen. You know, it seems like the end because God is uprooting all the evil that was sitting inside this country, in our Congress, around us every day that we didn't see. And now we getting to see them in full blown. God is exposing them. That's all it is. It's not that we are at the end. We are at a new beginning. And the things that we're going to need to start shutting down is immigration. Because a lot of people shouldn't be coming over here because they really have no reason to. Unless they come in here as a tourist, and even with that, we need to be very limited with it. With our visas. Because people been using our immigration so they could come here like America is an ATM. And to take care of everybody's poverty. No, we don't take care of everybody's poverty. We help people, but we don't supposed to. We do it out of the goodness, and nobody's entitled to anything. Everybody in America in those days, they had to work hard. Those people that died, those military men and women too, and children that were killed during these times. They died from malaria. They died. Some of them even died because there was because of poor weather condition. They didn't have the support in their homes to support them from the cold. You know, sometimes people woke up, their babies were frozen. You'd be surprised when you go do a deep dive in American history. You will see the suffering of American people through civil wars and revolutionary war after a war, how people suffered and how people had to rebuild their lives and everything. And you could talk about the oh my God, what was it? Yellow fever at the time that was killing people after the Civil War. It was the yellow fever. President Lincoln lost about two of his kids. Two of his children died. You know, it was traumatic. And one of his favorite sons, I heard that son was a brat though. They say he was something else. The youngest, one of his little favorite sons, he little Tadpole, they called him Tadpole. They said Tadpole boy used to run in there with them goats on his little cart and come through the office and spray things on people and do all kind of bad shit to people. You know, he was a badass. He was telling his story. I was like, whoa. And it's funny the way they say he got really depressed when that one died because that was his favorite child. And then Robert, of course, he grew up feeling like he was like the child that wasn't really given much of his father's attention and love or whatever. But he did request to be buried next to his father when he died. When his wife buried him in the Arlington cemetery. His father, he wanted to be buried in the tomb with his father, and she goes and bury him. That was a disrespect to me. It was. I know my stuff. Oh, I've been doing my studying. President Trump, thanks to him, thanks to President Trump, he's the one who led me to American history. Yes, he did. Back to American history. Back to my roots. President Trump was the one who led me, and I'm gonna be honest. He is. He taught me the world about economics and everything. Even though I'm broke and ain't got no damn money, but he's been around in my life for a long time. From the time he been out there in the world, just a businessman. That's why I told people. I said I don't care what president color the skin is, as long as he's an American and he's for the American people and he got that American spirit. If he ain't got that American spirit like we had for the last couple of years, we didn't have the American spirit from Obama. We didn't get the American spirit from Biden. We didn't have that kind of American spirit. When Trump came in, he woke everything up. He got people all out in there doing all kind of crazy stuff. And that means that he was built for America. He was born on our flag day. He was in the making. This immigrant child, well, his parents were, let's stop calling him an immigrant. His parents were immigrants. He wasn't an immigrant. He was born in the United States of America, and he embraced this nation. Okay? From the time he came out of his mother's womb, he embraced the culture here, the people here, and everything else. This is what made him. He was made in America. So that's what people need to understand. It ain't got nothing to do with his parents coming here as immigrants. It's how you embrace this nation. And President Obama and them did not embrace America. They were more focused on foreign affairs than they was with the American people. Well, putting in a working class president is also securing and keeping up your family business. That's working. That's still working class. Okay, he still have to go out there and see and protect his family's inheritance and his family's money. That's work. Trying to know who's in your business and who's working in your company and everything. That is work. Work don't necessarily mean it has to start from his father, his parents already did that, but he carried it. He carried the family's inheritance, the family's wealth, their dynasty. So I don't see nothing wrong with the fact that he became president because he didn't have a job as a construction worker when he started, or a farmer. He started out in the business world in real estate, and he took it to another level. He took the family business to another level to keep that family surviving here. So I don't see nothing wrong with what kind of work he did when he was not the president of the United States. Okay, but he did stay heavily involved in a lot of things with politicians. His money. With that money, he was helping people with their careers in politics. Okay, he was helping black and whoever he felt would be. He was helping Jesse Jackson campaign with the Rainbow Coalition. People need to go and read about their presidents and stop just going by what everybody else say. There's no such thing as you're gonna ever get a perfect president. Ever. That's not gonna happen. That's what that pastor should have said. You ain't gonna get no perfect president as a Christian. Because when you on the battlefield, some things you just might gonna have to do that that is something that you would never believe you would do. When you gotta put yourself in the battlefield to fight for your nation and your country or your family. um, cut from a different cloth. You're not supposed to put your trust in man. Your trust supposed to always be in God. And God leads your heart to choose the right person. Don't go by identity politics. That's what I'm saying. Always go by how the spirit is moving in your heart to do the right thing. To see past some of the other garbage that politicians out there put out there. Always look for how they moving than what they say. Because I'm just American, okay? It could be a black man like that one they just pulled out. Some Kuwamba, Lubamba. I can't even pronounce that name. Coke, and then you'll get offended because you got a foreign name. At least thing your parents could have did was give you at least an American name or something that was easier for people to know how to pronounce than to give you a foreign. Your whole name is foreign from the beginning all the way to the end. So that right there, your parents were actually dismissing you as being a part of American culture and American um anything, because they gave you a name that don't even connect with this country. This country was built on Christian faith. Point blank period. I'm just going to say built on Christian faith. Those who laid down their life for the Lord in a battle to build a nation under Christ, under God. Not a nation for man, but a nation under God and doing the things that God asks us to do. That is the foundation of America. And anybody trying to bring anything else in this nation, we are not going to allow it to take root in this nation. And that's what our fight is about in America. It's not about the color of someone's skin. Slavery was a very difficult thing at the time because at that time they were taking things from the scriptures and used slavery in it too. Because the slaves, remember, there was Hebrew slaves. There were slaves all through the Bible. Okay? But the difference with slaves is that slaves here were treated in a very brutal and inhumane way in America. But if you go through history, through how all other slaves were treated by the servants, the people they served or whatever, they were treated pretty much like family. They wasn't treated as, they didn't sell their children. Their children were there among them as slaves. They didn't do that in other joined slavery in those times. They didn't sell people kids. They didn't break up families. They kept families together. America is the only culture of when they had slaves. They took the slave children and families and separated them. They separated them from their families. If they were punished, their families were separated from them. So they always had to be very, very on cue when it came to um, working and doing the chores and the things that they were told to do. And if they disobeyed, they were punished. Someone whipped, and sometimes they wasn't even whipped. Their kids were just sold. The family was sold off. Some of the family members were just sold off. Because I was watching an episode of Roots, and Kizzy, which was Kunta Kinte's supposedly been what was Kizzy to Kunta Kinte? Kizzy was Kunta Kinte's daughter. She was Kunta Kinte's daughter, and she had learned how to read and write from her white friend, little girl she played with named Marianne or something like that. Her name was Mary something, Mary Beth, Marianne, whatever. The young girl comes home to visit her uncle. She came to visit her uncle and everything, and everybody knew that this uncle was really her father. The slaves knew the whole deal. They saw everything. They saw who the master, the house master was with, and all the women he laid with. But actually, that was his brother's wife. Okay, and Marianne was the child to his brother. I mean, was his child, but they made it look like it was his brother's child, but it was really his daughter. That was his real daughter. So he treated her very, when she came around, made sure she was treated very special, and all this other stuff was laid out for her. Everybody would welcome her when she came, and well, anyway, when you go to see Roots, right, and then she was in the house in her cabin with her mother and her father while they was having they supper at their home, and that's when slaves had their own time to have their conversations and talk about their day and entertain each other or whatever. And what happens is that Kizzy started taking something from the fireplace, and she started writing her name on the floor, and the mother and father saw that, and then her mother slaps her, and her mother said, "What are you doing?" And then she says, "Oh, I was just showing you I was spelling my name." She says, "Don't you ever let me know that. Let the what you call is know you know how to write, and you've been reading and so and so." And her mother schooled her about her white little friend, that you can't trust her. Okay, she did school her. Yep, there was a slave, but I don't know if there. I gotta find out. I heard something like about a slave Bible, but I never really looked into it. But anyway, so Kizzy and everything, her mother's warned her. Her mother told her not to do this, not to write, not to, ever let that be known publicly that you reading and you writing, and she's been teaching you how to read and how to write and da 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 da. So afterwards, Kizzy has a boyfriend, right? And his name was Noah or something like that. Lawrence Hilton Jacob plays that boyfriend in the movie Roots, in the saga. It was a family saga, so she writes this pass for her boyfriend, and he runs away from the plantation, and he was asking Kunta, because Kunta ran away quite a few times, tried to escape from out of slavery or whatever. And then he goes to Kunta and he tells him how he want to make his escape. So Kunta Kente, he didn't really approve of him because he felt that this man was going to bring trouble for his daughter, and he just was really like not really that, he didn't wasn't really feeling her boyfriend Noah. So when he started talking to Kunta about the, trying to run away, Kunta was trying to tell him, warn him, look, they got dogs, they got guns, they got this, that, the other. How far are you going to get before they catch up with you? You know what I'm saying? So if I advise you, he was just trying to warn him. But he did it anyway, trying to run away from the plantation. So when they caught him, when they brought him back, they found out who wrote the letter, because they took him inside that place and they whipped his ass. And he finally gave them Kizzy's name. He gave up Kizzy. So when he told them that it was his girlfriend Kizzy that taught him how to, to write the pass for him for the freedom of pass, Kizzy's mother, this is her second time in a marriage, because her first marriage, her husband tried to escape whatever, and they sold her kids from her to punish him. They sold him and they sold the kids from her. And she cried about it when she thought Kunta was going to try to run away again and this time take Kizzy with her. But she cried to tell him and everything not to try that to escape anymore. It's a good life here. This we have a very good master here. He's very good to us. He's a fair master. He's not such and such a way or blase blase, because he really liked that family. And Noah messed it up when Kizzy got hooked up with Noah. Noah tried to run away with a pass that was written by Kizzy, and Kizzy was sold to another plantation. And that mother bell broke down. She screamed, she cried, she dragged the cart and everything. And Kunta Kinte, he couldn't do nothing about it, because Noah was the man who his daughter chose to love, and wrote that, took a chance and writing him a pass, and caused that whole family to fall apart. But Chrissy kept her family, her language, her culture, things her father taught her about the land he came from, and she kept that with her, and she passed it on to her children, even though she was raped by her her master, because he couldn't wait to get his hands on her. And when she got there on his plantation, he raped her. She went to a more lower class plantation with a drunk named Tom. He was an alcoholic. All he did was drink. His wife was a very nasty person. She was mean. She was she didn't treat the slaves very nice, and they had to work in this real low class farm. It was this real messy and dirty. She came from more upper class. She was working at the Reynolds, Master Reynolds farm was a more upper, richer, you know, plantation. She went to a low class plant, a little farm plantation with other, people or whatever like that. She was a young girl, but he raped her and she had a baby by him or whatever, and named Chicken George. And then Chicken George grows up to be one of his best chicken fighters. Used to bring money on his farm and everything, fighting those chickens. That's the sports they were in those days. That's what he was more into. He had a chicken farm. So after she gets with on that plantation, she was a very strong, free spirit woman. She had a lot of things that the other slaves didn't have. She had culture, she had language, she had something different. She came from her father teaching her about her African heritage, her African people, her African language. So she was pretty cool. But Chicken George, she has her son, and she said, when that boy grow up, I'm gonna get him to kill Master Tom. But when the boy grows up, which is her son George, he grows up. He never knew that this man took favor of him because that was his son. You know what I'm saying? He was one of his favorite out of all of the other slave boys that he had. He was one of his best boys. So him and his Chicken George, they got this relationship going. They like each other, whatever. But Chicken George grants him his freedom, but he doesn't give everybody else their freedom. He doesn't give his mother and all the other, like his wife and his children, they freedom. He keeps his family behind, but he gives Chicken George, his freedom. So Chicken George have left the plantation, but he does return back in the end. But I'm just saying, like, in those times, in those slavery days or whatever, if the slaves disobeyed their masters, the children were sold, the families were broken apart. And that's the history of American history with their slaves. But in other cultures, they didn't do that to their slaves. They kept the families together. The families all worked together, went home together. They stayed within their own lineage and their own identity. They did not change them. Only thing they would probably change, like if the names were too difficult for them to pronounce, they would give them different names that were, suitable for them. Like with Toby, Kunta Kinte name was changed to Toby because Toby was a much easier name for them to call him than to say Kunta Kinte. They didn't know Kunta Kinte. They know no meaning of Kunta Kinte, but he gave the master name to him that was branding him, giving him his name, was Toby. He said, say your name. He refused to say it. They took his ass, whipped him on that pole for about, I don't know how long, till his back was cracked the fuck open, until he finally gave in and said his name was Toby. But all he had to do was like, okay, give me the name. You in a place where, but they didn't understand that. You someplace now where you really so far away from home across that water. You ain't got no boat to get where you want to go. You came on the ship, and while you was on the ship, they had you chained down in the bottom of the ship, so you really didn't have no windows or nothing to really see where you was going or where they was going, north, west, south. You had no compass. So where you was you had to surrender. But you rather take the whipping and have your back all scarred up and beat, have your foot chopped off. I would have been like, look, I'm here now. Yeah, my name is so and so, but I know who my name is. You know what I'm saying? I know who I am. God knows my name. And that should have been the most thing, but they don't know no God because at that time when they came, they had their own religion, the way they practiced and everything else. They did things. They didn't practice the God of the Bible. They practiced some other God. That's what I'm saying. How could people call people African American when they never even been in Africa? I've never been in Africa. And I think a lot of people should understand that like people could come out with red hair and certain things and their parents could be American, Indian, or maybe somewhere along the lines, maybe somebody in their family had that red hair, but they were born in America. And I would be like saying, oh, you Irish? That would be so damn disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? But you born here, your parents were born here. Nobody in your family, maybe way, 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 way back, but you don't really know who these people are, so you don't really know what village you came from and what clan you belong to. So all of that is behind you. All that is erased. You have a new life here in America. So your life planted here in America, that's all you know. You only know your ancestry here. You don't know no ancestry back in Africa. I don't know any Africans in Africa but my ex-husband. And he did, and I didn't go to Africa when I met him. I met him in America. Okay? That's the difference. And people be like African American. No, I'm American. Point blank, period. I'm a black, dark skinned, melanated American woman. I'm American. And I wasn't I was born right here on US soil. Brooklyn. And I just wanted to just share about Ulysses Grant. Like I said, let's have Grant because I know every August, around August, and they have Harlem Week. I think it's the first 2 weeks of August. And they always have like a jazz fest out there by Grant's tomb. And that is, I think that is so interesting. You're white American and well, you're American too. You're a white American, I'm a black American, so we do the swirl. The swirl, swirl, we do the swirl. The swirl. So anyway, right? So like I said, Grant's tomb is very interesting. That is right there in the heart of Harlem. And black people have been celebrating over there for years and years and years and years and years. And a whole lot don't even probably know what spirit is drawing them there. And it could be Grant because he fought for y'all. He fought for y'all freedom. And he also put his life down for y'all. And he also went after the KKK. Okay? He went for the KKK. That's right, to protect y'all asses. And y'all right there celebrating with him. Yep. Go and if anybody visiting Harlem this summer, check out Grant's tomb on 122nd Street and Riverside Avenue in the heart of Harlem. And look at all them. And this is a real picture, y'all, but I just did the graphic over it. But this is a real shot of a picture of the people out there listening to the jazz at the jazz of Grant's tomb. And it's free. You ain't gotta, it ain't gonna, I don't know what Mondani gonna try to do, but y'all beat his ass if he do try. Because them Italians is on his ass. They need to bring back the Gambino family. Run his ass the fuck up on out of here. Free the Gambinos! Run his ass right the fuck up on out of New York. Shit. Them damn Italians, boy. You fucking with them. They was one of the best immigrants that ever came to the United States of America. I like my Italians. I do. They are funny. They like a to me they like a where am I going? I'm going to get a water, y'all. To the refrigerator. But they're like Latinos. Sort of. They dark, hairy. But those Italians were going off on his ass. They was like, I dare you to forget about Little Italy. Them Italians are coming for you now, Mondani. You don't fuck with the wrong ones. Them Italians are gonna get your ass. They said no justice, no pizza, motherfucker. they said no justice, no pizza. Them Italians are bad because O'Donnell forgot to put them on as the people that came as the immigrants to the United States of America and how they built their little communities. And Little Italy is outside of Chinatown. He put Chinatown there, but he didn't put Little Italy. What kind of shit is that? And they were there. Boy. In Little Italy, they have the festivals down there on Canal. It's like in Manhattan, down in Manhattan, across the Brooklyn Bridge somewhere. I love when they have their festivals in New York. You get all of that. Those Italians communities, they made New York great. And some of the Jewish people that were down there in Manhattan too, they did a great job as immigrants as well. Because I used to love going down there, the garment places for your garments. They had those garment places down there. They also had the Diamond District, um, the Jewish community, and they also had like places we used to go. We used to always go down there, down in Manhattan on Canal Street. I remember going to a place we used to call them Jew Mans. And remember when the Jordache jeans came out? That's where we used to go buy our Jordache jeans and Sergio Valentes and Sassoons and Gloria Vanderbilts and all that designer jeans. We used to get it for retail price and get it for a cheaper price down there. We used to go down there to the market to buy our clothes and stuff in that area. And you get it a whole lot more cheaper. In New York, that's where we used to go spend our little money for school clothes and stuff. We used to go right down there. I said, I don't know if it's like that now because I haven't been down there in years. But it was fun. It was exciting, and that's how I do remember the culture there. I remember the Jewish culture. I remember most of my teachers were Jewish. No, Lincoln didn't own any slaves. Ulysses Grant had one slave, but his wife had slaves. And you got to remember that Ulysses' family is basically the family that supported him through his whole time during his time service and everything. So they kind of like when he married his wife and stuff like that, he mostly stayed around his wife family. They had the slaves. He didn't. But he had one slave, but his name was I forgot his slave's name. His name is in the history books as well. He he only had one, but he didn't keep him very long. He only kept him maybe a year or something like that. But other than that, Ulysses Grant didn't own any slaves. He wasn't even for it really. He wasn't really for it. Um, but he fought for against it, and he also fought against the KKK. I don't know if he made him give. I got to go back in his story. I don't know if he made her give him them up, because you had a big plantation like that. You had all that land in that farm. You gonna get somebody to help you work on them farms. They had a lot of land, and they had grown a lot of stuff. And people, that's how they made they. To me, if they do it, if you do gonna have people work on your property, your land, and you want, and especially cooking your food, you got to be fucking crazy to have somebody be a slave and beating their ass and they cooking your food. That shit is crazy. I said, how the hell? I was like, shit, them damn slaves was fighting back now. Don't think them damn slaves was stupid. They were poisoning them. They were putting glass in their food. They were doing all kind of shit to their damn slave masters and they wives and their kids and stuff. Don't think you treating people cruel like that they wasn't gonna try to get some damn revenge. Even if you sold their ass, somebody else was there to do it for them. You know what I'm saying? That's why they had to get rid of all that goddamn slavery shit. Them damn slaves wasn't playing like Nat Turner. Nat Turner, boy, he had a whole damn they were doing all kind of shit. They were fighting for their freedom. They don't tell that part of history. Some of them slaves took their ass out there somewhere, cut their ass up somewhere. I'm telling you. Them slaves were fighting back. They had to release them damn slaves. They couldn't hold on to them slaves. But the only thing is just that they couldn't send them nowhere. You know what I'm saying? They couldn't send them back because where they gonna send them? They didn't know where they got them from. They was from all different places. They had no stuff like they came from this part of Africa when they imported them. Some of them was came from other places. They came from the West Indies. Some slaves that were dropped off in the West Indies, and some was ported over to over there in Virginia. That's where they brought them at. That's where they used to port them at, either in Virginia or down by South Carolina. Because South Carolina, they trade was rice. They did a lot of rice, and I think cotton too, but more rice in South Carolina because of the way the weather was there and the way the land was in those kind of areas like rice down there in South Carolina and in the West Indies. In the West Indies, they did rice. That was they trade. In the cotton field, cotton was more probably in places like you got to go do your research because I'm not sure where cotton was mostly grown at because every slave did different types of They had their own different um products that they used, like things that they did. Like some did the rice, some worked as blacksmiths, and you know they probably did some shit on their damn masters' horses, and probably took their masters in there and put them on that damn machine. I know there was one episode in Roots when Tom's son, no, Tom was his name because he was named after his white granddaddy. Okay. He went after them because they did something to him. The KKK tried to rape his wife, and the man tried to mess with his wife or something like that. And he caught him inside the barn because he was in the war, and he came. And this was during the Civil War, and he was one of those soldiers trying to hide out. So he went inside their it's like a barn, sort of like a barn where they kept things in the barn and stuff. And he went in there and he asked her to get him something to eat because he was hungry or something. And when she came back, he tried to rape her, the white dude. Tried to rape his wife. And when he came in and saw that, he beat that man ass. But you know, they came and after he did what he did, of course, they killed him. And his brother was looking for him. His brother was like, "This was the last place he was at. Where's my brother at?" And this, I'm gonna get you niggas. I know somebody did something to my brother, and he can and they killed his ass. They took that. He was trying to rape homeboy's wife. Homeboy had his ass up in that barn, and boy, oh boy, did they he killed them. And but they had to hide the body. They hid the body, you know. And so his brother felt that his brother was over there when he came looking for him. And he's like, "Where my brother?" It was over there. And he came back for Tom. He's like, "I know you did something to my brother, nigga." And he took him and they put him on the tree and they whipped him and they whipped him. And he didn't die though. But afterwards they came back and they was gonna come back for him. So what Tom did, since he was a blacksmith, he knew how to do on like to put a certain kind of mark on the bottom of the horseshoes so he would know who they are as they was hiding behind those bed sheets. He knew the horses that they drove because of the way he marked they horseshoes, and he put it in there so when they put the print inside the dirt, he could tell who was who. That was part of the clan members. That was smart. Them slaves, they knew how to figure it out. They knew the mark that they left on they knew when these masters were mean to them and did some horrible things to them. Even though they sold them off, they still had people that was like family to them. They're right there on the plantation, so they would take revenge for that person being sold. They would do all kind of stuff, shit in their food, pee in their food, put all kind of particles and stuff, and then you wonder they don't tell that dark side of history. That's why they had to let them damn slaves go. You want people to cook your goddamn food, and then on top of that, nurse and take care of your fucking kids, and you treating them like that. That's why it don't make no sense to have no man as a slave. They could do anything to you. That's why I say if I'm enemy against these people in the United States, living in the United States, you think I'd be wanting to go eat from them? You think I would go to their restaurants and buy food like from these Chinese food restaurants and these Arab food restaurants and these Arab people and everything? You don't know what the fuck they could be putting in your food. That's why I be saying, y'all some dumbass Americans. That's why they say y'all some stupid ass Americans. you know? Because y'all be sitting up here accepting all kind of shit. And these people come in here cooking food for y'all. Y'all be eating from them and everything. What you don't know won't hurt, but what you do. Yeah, they used to spit in their food. They used to do. Child, please. Them slaves used to get their shit off. Okay? You think they would just. As they should have. You damn right. You whipped my ass last night. Now I gotta cook you a goddamn meal. You damn right. I'll put all kind of shit in your food. I'll do all kind of stuff and tell you it's like a soup or whatever. They used to do that. They ain't have no cameras. Them slaves will put all kind of shit in their food. Now some of them didn't do that because they had a Christian heart and they just felt like, hey, I ain't saying all. Some had a Christian heart, but I'm talking about them doggone thugs. And I'm not washing my head. can't be making nobody a servant in your house and treating them fucked up, and then you turn around and want these damn people to serve you food and wash your clothes and do all kind of stuff like that and nurse your babies and shit. That shows you their ignorance. That's how ignorant you were. You was stupid. I would have been nice as hell to them goddamn slaves. I would be like, "What y'all need? You just go do this." You know what I'm saying? I would have been like serving them, making sure they was okay, so they could do whatever they can for me and do it in a decent way and know how to kill me and harm me. Yeah, some of these women, like even during that time, some mothers they didn't get enough of milk in their breast, or some white women were too damn lazy. Or they talk about they had some damn postpartum depression shit and they couldn't nurse their own baby, so the slave woman would nurse her baby for her. And sometimes she would have to nurse both of them at the same time, her baby and the slave woman baby. But the slave woman baby would have to eat first. He said, "Take your dog out to pee." Yep. Oh yeah. You know, some of them even had. I swear to you, not. I wish they would tell the story about some of these slaves, what they used to do. Those slaves probably was doing all kind of shit. He was doing all kind of shit. But some of them were treated really, really good though, like family. To be honest with you, but they treated the ones like the slave master kids. They got to live real well. You know, they got to live in the house, and they wasn't treated nice by maybe the master's wife, but they were really treated well by the master. They had the best clothes. They had the best tasted. They had the best of the food, and they were good. Look at the movie Queen when Alex Haley do the story on his I think that was his father's side. He does his father's side of his history with Queen, and Halle Berry plays because his great great grandmother was white. I mean, mixed with white. She was half mixed. She was mixed, and her mother was mixed, sort of too. So she was very light skinned, and they were like Creole, or I wouldn't mulattoes or whatever they were. You really couldn't tell who they were. Like, what's her name? Oh my God, what's that girl name again from Sparkle? She, what is her name? Like her, looked like Lena Horne. They looked like Lena Horne. You know, guys, if you look at Lena Horne, you got to really look hard at her to see that she's a black woman, because other than that, you could never tell. And that's what Alex Haley great great grandmother looked like. You could never tell, so she hid her identity and try to fit in with white people, but something showed up that she wasn't white. And it got around to this man that fell in love with her, and when he found out she wasn't white, boy oh boy, he whipped her ass, threw her ass out, and called her all kind of whores and bitches and everything else. And when he found out who she was, because he was ready to marry her, he was all in love with her until he found out she wasn't white. She was black, passing for white, and there was a whole lot of them. Yeah, it just happened that way. Some of the masters, and that's why I tell black FBAs and everything, like, when Africans come and say we African, be like, no, we're not. You know, we actually are mixed. We mix with all different types of other ethnic groups and different races. Some of us it took strongly in us, and some of us it didn't. We're mixed. That's why when you're an American, you really mix. You're not really um saying, "Oh, I'm a Nigerian American." No, unless you just came from Nigeria. You know what I'm saying? And if you the first generation of a Nigerian. But once your family been here for a very, very long time, like my history, we're no longer African American. We are foundational black Americans, because we came from the foundation of the building of this country, whether we were free or enslaved. We are foundational black Americans, or ADOS, like I said to the other people, is ADOS, which is the American descendants of slaves. We are not African American. And I just try, only way you an African American if your family just came from Africa, you the first generation of African children born here in America. That's the only way you could say you're an African American. And you were born, most of the time Africa is a continent, so you could say you a Nigerian American or a Ghanaian American or whatever. You could put those places of Africa you came from, of your people, as you being the first generation to American culture here. But other than that, those of us who've been here for since 1619, we not African. We American. We are the foundational black Americans. Our ancestors been here since then. So you can't call us African because we don't know nothing about that continent, about the people that come here and tell us who they are. I never been to Africa, never even visit Africa. Yeah, you know, you German, Scottish, Irish, and Native American. So you American. Point blank, period. All of us that had ancestry here when we were born on this soil, and our families were, our mothers was born here, and our mothers was born. Maybe somebody else from a long time ago came here from some other place of the world. But when you was here for at least 4 or 5 generations, you are no longer considered that place of where you came from. You are American. Point blank, period. I don't understand all of these people coming here. Like these people sitting in our government now should not be sitting here because ain't none of them know American. They don't have no interest in America. And they're giving President Trump a hard time. But I said, President Trump, don't even lose sweat over it because you already said it. God already said it. It's in the word of God. Ain't no reason to stress out over it. We just going to just fix the law. We just going to fix whatever has to happen for immigration from here on now. Ain't nobody else coming through those pearly gates. Ain't nobody getting in. The end is closed. Okay? I was 100% born here. That's right. It ain't got nothing to be being black, white, green, purple. I'm American. Point blank American. And I'm all into the spirit of America. You see all my American patriotism. And where I keep stuff here. I got the American flag up. I got this. My father served in the military here. My uncle served. My grandfather served. I'm American. Okay? My great grandfather, he served in the military. My father served in the military. His father served in the military. And my sister, one of my sisters, none of my brothers, but my sister has, and her children are military. Her daughter, her grandson. So I'm American. Okay? Point blank, I'm American, and I'm with America 100%. I ain't going against American for nobody, no other nation. I'm sorry, Iran could get their ass bombed the fuck up. I don't care. People say, well, we kids. Well, we got kids over here too, and we got to take care of our families over here too. We got to make sure we keep our regime over here clean and safe and away from you terrorist motherfuckers. We don't need no more problems. We got enough problems. We got our terrorist group. We got the KKK. We don't need no more terrorist groups. Okay? The end is closed. But anyway, y'all, I'm gonna get out of here because I wanna get me something to eat and call my husband and see where he's at this time of the evening. We have enough. We got the KKK. We don't need no more motherfucking terrorists. Okay? We don't. We don't. So anyway, y'all, I'm getting out of here. Please hit that like button on your way out. I just wanted to just give y'all early what's going to be taking place in Harlem. Hopefully that Mondani doesn't try to change all of that, but they usually have the Jazz Fest, and it's in August at the Grant's Tomb. So y'all if y'all go to visit in New York, or you are in New York, go visit. I want to do me a t-shirt. I probably do a t-shirt with President Grant for souvenir for this year. for a souvenir, so I don't forget him. You're getting older, so you want to hold on to things that you don't want to that you want to remember. So I probably do one for Harlem Week with, something for dead President Grant with a $50 bill or some shit on it. Go visit the dead presidents. Whatever state you in, find out what president was in that state and learn their story and share. I would love to hear stuff about, the dead presidents. You find some interesting story. A lot of treasures are buried in those graves. So God bless you, love you, and peace.